am angry at Die Another Day for botching the 40th anniversary, I would have been absolutely livid if that was the movie we got for the 50th anniversary. Fortunately, we got Skyfall. Oh, Skyfall, how I love thee. After the chagrin brought about by Quantum of Solace, even Daniel Craig was left so dissatisfied by that experience that he was almost ready to leave the role. When talks finally surfaced about the 50th anniversary film, Craig recommended Sam Mendes to direct. And instead of stuffing the script with garish nods to the past and focusing on Bond as a character, this film became a stirring introspective piece, and it reinvigorated Bond in more ways than one. The impact this film had was unparalleled, from the massive box office returns combined with the critical praise so loud that it was a legitimate contender when award season came around. I mean, seriously, check out the IMDb. This film had some serious nods under its belt. It even won an Oscar or two. And yet, Roger Deakins still got squat! Seriously, Academy, he better get it for Blade Runner 2049 or you're gonna be dreaming of electric sheep! Now, while we're on the subject, this is the best looking Bond film I've ever seen. Deakins' mastery of color, framing, movement, lighting, and composition, it's unrivaled. The fight sequence in Shanghai is moody, cerebral, it's kinetic. Even in silhouette, you can still be invested in the action. And the final showdown at Skyfall Manor, it juggles being hot and cold, almost effortlessly. And the darkness, married with the firelight, is foreboding and makes for a frantic finale. Deakins even knew that the best way to tease you with the reveal of the villain is to hold the shot from across the room and let the villain come to you. We waited an hour, more or less, to meet Raul Silva, and the script is so sharp that it builds up Silva's menace, all the way to a wholly satisfying reveal, utilizing a long lingering shot as Silva regales Bond with an eerie tale that perfectly emulates the nature of Bond and Silva's rivalry, and it is personified beautifully on a visual level. The relationship between hero and villain in the story makes for one of the most ponderous Bond stories of all time. Bond has devoted everything to his cause, and it appears that he was flippantly sacrificed for a tactical advantage. And, as you find out, the same happened to Silva. The partition between the two is how they relate to M. Silva views M's decision as a betrayal. While Bond is raw about it in the beginning, he understands the job. He understands the necessity of sacrifice even if the chance of success is minimal. There is still trust between the two, and mainly because of that understanding. That's why it comes as no surprise to him that M cleared him for duty even though he didn't seem to be up to the task. They both knew that the only way Bond was ever going to regain his edge was to get thrown in the deep end, to rediscover that part of him that can only be found in the wild. Exploring these themes in the 50th anniversary celebration is definitely no mistake. After 5 decades, the natural question needs to be asked about whether or not Bond has run his course and should be put out to pasture. In the eyes of the fans, Bond has had more misses than hits in the past few films, so inevitably, the question of whether or not the franchise has run out of steam is going to be pretty frequent. Since they already did a fresh reboot not 2 movies prior, they decided to explore Bond during a point in his life which parallels what the public's perception of Bond was at this point. I guess the question, don't you think he looks tired? It does stand to reason that if you miss a step or two, that could bring you crashing down if you're not ready for it. And Bond? Well, he fell real hard off the tall bridge, so the possibility that he may never get back to the man he used to be is very real. So, this film opts to finally take us to that one place that the films had never taken us, the beginning. And by the beginning, I'm not talking about when he became an agent, I'm talking about when he was a child. The days of Bond's broken childhood, when he lost his family. Bond returns to his home a broken man, and he's pitted in a deadly competition with another broken man, and the only way for Bond to face the demon is to face it on his terms. It's a common misconception that the mission was to protect M, but you gotta remember, by this point M was no longer M, she'd been sacked, and her whole world had come crashing down, and all because of the mistakes she's made in her past. She went with Bond to Skyfall because she wanted what Bond wanted. To reconcile the past and wipe the slate. This just happened to involve luring a vengeful madman to a place where Bond and M had home field advantage. The problem with dealing with a madman is that you have no idea what they're going to do. The only thing you know is that they are way too dangerous to be on the loose, so you have to separate him from the rest of the world, away from his technological resources, and take him down. And to follow on that, there have been some criticisms regarding Silva's MO. In the build-up to Silva's introduction, we've established that he's already taken over the world. He can topple governments with a keystroke. Heck, we saw him slaughtering undercover agents with a mere mouse click, and not even his own mouse click. He tricked M into doing it. In our technology-obsessed world, he is practically a god. After all that, what else are you gonna do? You're left with your pain. And like anyone who suffers, you just want it to end. No other Bond villain has had the opportunity to be explored to such an extent, and this was the film that elevated the idea of a Bond villain to a new plateau in our current cinematic climate. Now, trust me, I could write a novel about how much I worship Skyfall. It's one of the few Bond films that had that fine balance between action and ponderous drama. It proved that Bond didn't always have to be just about booze, broads, and bullets. For all the madness Bond has survived over the years, we still forget that Bond is still just a man, and even he has his breaking point. Skyfall is the film that put that idea in our crosshairs.